Joining us on the phone now to talk the week in LGBTI news is the editor of Star Observer, Elias Jahshan. Elias, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Sounds like you're really good, Elias.
I'm fantastic.
Thank goodness it's the weekend. You can sleep that cough off.
Oh, I know, right? I know.
But more importantly, the week in LGBTI news. Let's head on down to Melbourne for what's been dubbed as Postergate.
Yeah. A few posters have appeared around Melbourne CBD that basically encourage. Well, it's got a very blunt message. About encouraging discussion around PrEP and getting it approved ASAP. But the way it was approached, it basically said you can fuck raw on PrEP.
Yeah.
And it was it's a rather
crass.
It's probably I'm not sure if it's crass. Probably not my place to say, but it is definitely an example of shock devising, which is my I guess it's my hybrid of shocking advertising. Yeah. And it totally misses the point. It's totally misinformed, and it could very easily be misinterpreted as as that it just doesn't take into account other STIs that PrEP doesn't prevent, and and it doesn't drive the message that PrEP is just one of many tools available for HIV and STI.
Do they know who posted the posters up?
I beg your pardon?
Do they know who created the posters and put them around town?
Yeah. This group, forget their name, but it's an anonymous group who decided to take matters into their own hands because they thought there wasn't enough education and discussion and debate about PrEP.
Did they approach the AIDS Council down there, the Victorian AIDS Council?
No, they didn't. No, Victorian AIDS Council, Living Positive Victoria, have absolutely nothing to do with these posters, and they cautiously, they've been very cautious about. They haven't really, they've distanced themselves from it.
Yeah.
And they've made it clear that they never made the posters, but at the same time, they don't want to stifle debate, which is understandable. They don't want to stifle discussion because we need this discussion in our community.
This is the wrong approach. Like, I know we're just talking about the news, but let's get opinionated for a second. Just to say that take this pill and you can fuck raw is a terrible message, especially for the greater community who are still.
It is quite extreme.
Let's not forget we are still on the tail end of the 80s AIDS epidemic. It wasn't that long ago. It was 30 years ago, less than 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and society is still, the gay community is still branded with that stigma. We're still fighting the AIDS stigma, and to come out with a poster saying, "Hey, you can fuck raw now," the choice of language is crass. The message is wrong, and I don't think it's going to help us one bit. This group is so juvenile.
It is a very divisive poster. I think my biggest concern is the fact that it's being posted around Melbourne CBD, not in the neighbourhoods of Melbourne. So you won't see it in Fitzroy, you won't see it in Collingwood or Paran.
Yeah.
It's all around the CBD, as far as I know, and it could, all it takes is someone like Andrew Bolt to see it, and then he'll write up a blog post about it, and it really pushes us, really does make us the subject of homophobic comments from not just from Andrew Bolt and his ilk, but also their rabid followers as well.
Yeah,
so that's my biggest fear.
Look, we're trying to get PrEP listed on the PBS, so it is discounted so people can afford it. Because at the moment it's a stupid. It costs like $1,000 for a month plus.
Yeah, but it hasn't even been approved by the governing health body, the Therapeutic Goods Association.
Yeah,
So,
we're trying to have an educated conversation or debate about this. Whoever side this is fighting for, whether it be pro or against, because I'm still confused whether they are pro or against with their message.
The posters are pro-PrEP.
Well, it doesn't quite seem that way because it is such a negative message.
That's another big thing about the poster. It paints this image that all gay men are obsessed with sex, and that's one stigma we had to shake off during the gay liberation movement and right up into the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
And
not only just having
stereotype back is not very good for us.
not just having sex, but having raw sex, unprotected sex, which is something the AIDS councils, not only Victoria, but in New South Wales and Queensland and all over the country, have been trying to educate ever since the AIDS epidemic in the 80s that we must have protected sex.
It's not up to, up until the HIV and AIDS crisis came to Australia in the 80s, men were having condomless sex without condoms for decades.
Oh, of course. Of course, but then we had the unfortunate incident where AIDS ripped through our scene.
Look, the AIDS councils are still encouraging that, having sex with condoms is the best way to prevent HIV.
Yeah.
But it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and that's why PrEP is being introduced. And all the AIDS council are saying, yes, condoms one option, and another option is PrEP.
Yeah.
And there are other options as well, because, you can still catch STIs from skin-on-skin contact.
But just personally, I think that the message should be about this is another way to prevent contracting HIV and AIDS. But
that's exactly what the AIDS councils are doing. But
rather than these organisers, groups
they made it clear in their statement that they reckon there's not enough education out there, which I think is a bit, which I think is arguable. But then again,
I don't disagree with them, but we should be having a mature conversation about it rather than saying, "Hey, take this pill and you can fuck raw." That is it is an atrocity of a statement and argument to be making. It's juvenile. But let's move on to something a little bit more happier. The Parramatta Pride picnic is on this Sunday.
That's right. Yeah, it's often regarded as a mini Mardi Gras fair day. It's fairly small, but it's the main reason why it was established a few years ago was to address the complete lack of LGBTI-specific events and LGBTI-centric venues or gay bars and stuff like that out in Western Sydney.
Yeah.
And Parramatta is often regarded as the gateway to Western Sydney, the second CBD of Sydney.
You're only saying that because you live there. Yeah, go on.
Yes, I do. Yes, I am a Parramatta boy. But having said that, I'm not the only gay in the village. There are more and more LGBTI people moving out in the area, like in Parramatta, Auburn, Northmead areas especially.
Yeah.
Simply because it's a lot cheaper than renting or buying a place in the inner west or in the city. And it's on the train line. But the point is, it's a family-friendly event. It's a mini fair day. It's on the foreshores of Parramatta River. We've got Lady Kinmei hosting the event, and a couple of other drag queens whose names escape me.
I'm sure Beverly Buttercup will be out there for that one.
Yeah, Lady Kinmei and Portia Turbo, and also Pandora Box will be there. And
lovely.
Doggy Wood.
The old crew.
Sorry?
The old crew back together doing the Out West.
Yes. And it's a big deal because it's only 2 years ago when the local LGBTI community sort of put the Lord Mayor on the in the press for very bad reasons for being basically doing something quite homophobic with 2010.
Yeah.
So it's come a long way since then, and Parramatta Pride Picnic has been around for 9 years or so now. So it's growing every year, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Now, just look. What's this movement happening online? Or the people posting online with Western Australia now supporting marriage equality? Well, what's happening there?
Western Australia has joined the New South Wales Parliament in supporting marriage equality for a free vote. So, the Premier of Western Australia, Colin Barnett, he's a Liberal Premier, and he's the second Premier, the second Liberal Premier, I should say.
Yeah.
Who's come forward to support a free vote on marriage equality and opposition to a plebiscite.
Okay. Do we know if he supports it or not?
He what, sorry?
Do we know if he supports marriage equality or is he just asking for a free vote so he can vote it down?
I have to clarify whether he himself supports marriage equality or not. But he does support a free vote, and he's against a plebiscite, and that's very much a similar position that Mike Baird has taken recently.
Yeah, but isn't Mike Baird not supportive of same-sex marriage?
No, Mike Baird's against same-sex marriage, but he supports a free vote.
Yeah, so it's whether Western Australia wants a free vote or not, it could be a good or bad thing. Yeah,
that's what I mean. I'll have to clarify whether Colin Barnett supports marriage equality personally.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he does, but he does support a free vote. So that's similar to Mike Baird made that stance before he got elected as Premier.
Yeah. You'd think
I
Mike
think
Baird...
said that he thought a plebiscite was a waste of money as well.
Yeah.
So the fact that these two leading Liberal leaders have come forward, it just puts pressure on the federal Liberals to sort of do the same thing.
Well, that's true. You'd think Mike Baird would change his mind. I personally, he probably dislikes it, but let's take a look at this. Sydney is one of the biggest gay populations in the world.
The energy should be focused on bringing that free vote back, not the I think trying to change Mike Baird's mind, whether he does support or doesn't support marriage equality, is not going to make a difference because it's in a state jurisdiction. But the fact that he supports the free vote does put pressure on federal Liberal.
I just don't think he's representing his state by not supporting same-sex marriage. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
now,
what can you do about that?
Of course, we weren't here last week doing news, but the new Star Observer magazine is out on the streets. What's in it this month?
We've got Lachlan Beacon on the cover. He's the Aussie Rules football player whose YouTube video went viral a few months ago, pretty much imploring the government to legislate marriage equality, not just for marriage equality, but for mental health reasons as well. I forget how many people viewed that video, but he's on the front cover because he shares his coming out story and what his coming out journey before YouTube put him in the public spotlight.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's a feature on Samoan Fasafine, the Samoan third gender tradition, which is fascinating. And we've got a rare one-on-one interview with Alan Joyce, who's the openly gay chief executive of Qantas, and probably the most powerful chief executives in Australia.
Yeah.
I think he was recently just listed as the second highest earning chief executive in Australia.
Wow.
I've got to clarify that. I just saw something about how the chief executive of Virgin Australia earns more than Alan Joyce, but and that's only fairly recent. But he's quite a powerful guy. And we had the privilege of sitting down with him for a one-on-one interview. And there's also an expose on ex-gay conversion therapy and things you need to know about them and stuff like that.
Yeah. And of course, there was a great Q&A in there as well.
Yes.